Oh, nothing. Oh, I found that to the mayor.
All right, I will call this Tigard City Council meeting to order. Roll call, please. City Recorder Krager.
Youth Counselor Turley. Here. Council President Goodhouse.
Here.
Counselor Newton.
Here.
Counselor Lube.
Here.
Counselor Anderson.
Here.
Mayor Snyder.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have any non-agenda items?
None from staff, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to citizen communication. Is there any follow-up to previous citizen communication?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we have a report from the Tigard Area Chamber of Commerce. Jessica, welcome.
Good evening. Jessica Love, Tigard Chamber of Commerce, Community and Membership Engagement. Our Leadership Tigard class launched today. We had SimSoc. We have 23 participants, which we're really excited about. And so they did a simulation society today. We have our Brookside Memory Care ribbon cutting on the 17th, as well as our Government Affairs and Public Policy Committee meeting. And then on the 22nd, we have Invest in You, which is our educational series. And this month's topic is called From Attraction to Action. And then new member orientation is on October 30th. In September, we had 7 new businesses join the chamber, which is exciting. And then we would like you to save the date for our Bowl-O-Rama, which is going to be Saturday, February 29th. We'd love to have a city council team this year. And then Holiday Happy Hour on December 3rd. And then our Shining Stars Community Awards Gala is May 1st. We have morning network, our weekly networking is every Thursday at 7:30, and the location changes. This week we're at Morning Star Senior Living. Get Connected is going to be at Azumi's Japanese Steakhouse on October 22nd. And then we have our affinity groups that meet the first and second Tuesday of each month. You can check our calendar for details on upcoming events. The farmers market only has 3 Sundays left of this season. And we are also hosting a wreath making class on November 30th in conjunction with Small Business Saturday in downtown. For Tigard Downtown Alliance, they have Trick or Treat Main Street on October 31st, Small Business Saturday on November 30th, which we're looking to add a new exciting piece that will come out later. And then save the date for the annual holiday tree lighting, which is going to be on December 6th. Any questions?
Well, I just want to verify, we don't have to be good at bowling, right? If we put it.
No, it's only a
Okay.
9-pin, so you don't even have to get a full strike to get a strike.
Can we use the bumpers?
You can. I use them every year, so yes.
All right.
I just wanted to ask, since you are in charge of the farmers market, how do you think the season has gone?
It's been really well. Weather has been our challenge this season because it's been a beautiful summer, so we've noticed a lot more people out and about. But then also we've had a lot of rain, especially I just hired a new assistant manager, and the only days he's worked so far, it's been pouring down rain. So I hope he stays on. But we're really excited because we have done really well in our snap matching program this year. So that's one thing that we're super, super excited about. So.
That was a really cool program to have, so thank you for the update.
You said the tree lighting was December 6th?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Thank you very
Cool.
much.
Thank you.
All right. I do not have any citizens that have signed up under citizen communication. Is there anyone that is here that did not sign up that wishes to testify? I see none. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda is used for routine items such as approval of minutes, receipt of council meeting calendars, proclamations, appointments to boards and committees, and approval of contracts or intergovernmental agreements with partner agencies. Detailed information on each item is available on the city's website in the packet for this meeting. Approval may be enacted in one motion without separate discussion. Anyone may request that an item be removed by motion for discussion and separate action.
Mr. Mayor, I would like item C to be removed for discussion.
Okay, we'll remove item C for separate discussion.
And on item B, I'd just like a quick overview from staff on item B.
Okay, let's pull both of those then. Is that a motion to pull that one as well? And we'll act on the council calendar and tentative agenda and then move on?
Yes.
Okay, that's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so we're clear. You've moved approving the consent agenda? I guess I want to clarify. I know I'm being kind of sloppy here, so. Is someone moving the consent agenda that's just item A, receive and file council calendar and tentative
So I
agenda?
move to approve the consent agenda, item A, removing items B and C
For discussion?
for discussion.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we'll move on to item number B, consider agreement with Northwest Housing Alternatives. Mr. Farrelly. And thank you for being prepared on short notice.
Problem. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. As you know, City Council has been exploring developing 50 to 60 affordable senior apartments on the city-owned Tigard Senior Center site. After going through a request for information process, we have identified our potential partner, and that's Northwest Housing Alternatives. And what we're asking tonight is for you to authorize the city manager to sign an exclusive negotiating agreement. And that agreement just lays out the framework where we're going to develop a lease and a development agreement with Northwest Housing Alternatives, which will be brought back to council at a future meeting. So we're not committing ourselves to anything. It's just giving them the right to exclusively negotiate with us. And they need that for some financing.
I move to approve, item B, consider agreement with Northwest Housing Alternatives.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Farrelly. Moving on to item number C, Local Contract Review Board, consider contract for on-call information technology support and other related services. Thank you for being here.
Hello, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Mike Dunlap, IT manager here at the city. So the motion in front of you is to award contracts to vendors that responded to our request for proposal for on-call IT services. There were 4 categories varying across all of our IT platforms, from network security, database administration, and GIS. And so what we found is one of the ways that we can gain efficiencies is to do a large block of contracts instead of doing one on every single $10,000 contract that we do one that would last 2 years with the option to renew for 2 extra years after that. So, any questions that you may have?
Counselor Luke?
Thank you for being here. I have some more general questions. I know you said none of the projects are going to be over $100,000, but I was wondering if you had a ballpark estimate of, what you're thinking all of these projects are going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. It varies year by year. All of this is pre-budgeted items. A lot of it's in the IT budget, but a lot of it comes out of departmental budgets as well. In the IT budget this year, we have $142,575 that we've kind of earmarked. $95,000 of that is on-call work, I would suppose, and about $50,000 of that is planned services that we know these projects are already in exist. So on-call work would be anything from we need to do a security audit, or we had a security audit and we need to fix things. We want to, like we just recently brought a vendor in to migrate all of our personal drives up to OneDrive, Microsoft OneDrive. So they're smaller-based projects that have grown over size. They used to be in the $5,000 to $10,000 range. Now we're looking in the $15,000 to $30,000 range. Some of them can be, up to the $100,000 mark, depending on what the project is. A lot of it is unanticipated, so it's what the need drives the moment. We had a security flaw and we needed to correct some network infrastructure to make it more secure. We would bring in some security and network experts to help us plan that type of service. On average, I think the last couple of years we spent about $150,000. Last year was $250,000, but $100,000 of that was an AV refresh that we did for the screen and the library community. So we still kind of ended up around $150,000.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, or a motion?
I move to approve the local contract review board to consider a contract for on-call services for information technology support and other related services.
Second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you both. All right, next item on the agenda is consider resolution accepting a street plug transfer from Washington County. Mr. Murchison, good to see you.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. As stated, the issue here tonight is to accept the transfer from Washington County for a street transfer plug. That's basically a one-foot track that was recorded back in the late 60s, 90s, or 70s. We currently have a development underway now, and we need to accept this transfer from Washington County to the city so we can then dedicate this one-foot track by deed and record it in the plat so the private development project can move forward. Any questions?
Councilor Newton.
Where exactly is this?
So this is 114th in North Dakota.
Okay.
It's called the Brightwood subdivision.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know where that is. Okay, thanks.
So this is on 114th.
Other questions or a motion?
I move to approve resolution number 19-37.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. City Recorder, please read the number and title of the resolution.
Resolution number 1937, a resolution accepting the transfer of Tract A of Winter's Edition from Washington County.
Any final discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, item number 5 is an executive session. The Tigard City Council will enter into an executive session to discuss exempt public records under ORS 192.660 subsection 2F. All discussions are confidential and those present may disclose nothing from the session. Representatives from the news media are allowed to attend executive sessions as provided by ORS 192.6604, but must not disclose any information discussed. No executive session may be held for the purpose of taking any final action or making any final decisions. Executive sessions are closed to the public. Unlike our typical, the council will return to Town Hall at the end of this executive session and reconvene a regular session. So I want to be very clear about that. So we are going to go into executive session. And we'll be back. All right, we will reconvene this Tigard City Council meeting back from our executive session. Next item on the agenda is a discussion regarding Tigard Street maintenance fee. Mr. LaFrance.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Toby LaFrance, Finance and Information Services Director. Here to talk with you this evening about the street maintenance fee. Staff has recently undertaken a review of the street maintenance fee administration and process, and in doing so, came up with a couple of areas where we have some recommendations. But backtracking just a little bit before we get there. The street maintenance fee is the funding source for Tigard's pavement management program. So this is our annual maintenance of streets where we go in and we do the thin layer of slurry seal, smaller street overlays, and it's been a very successful program for the city of Tigard that has actually over time slowly increased the street condition index. So essentially, overall, Tigard streets are in better condition because of this program, and which is funded through the street maintenance fee. The fee itself, the way the fee is calculated, is set in Tigard's code. There's a couple of key components. We take the upcoming program for the next roughly 5 years, divide it by street type. Street types are assigned between residential and commercial customers. And then we take the total cost for the program for the residential customers, divided by the number of equivalent dwelling units, so divided by the number of households in the city, come up with a monthly fee, and that's what a household pays. On the commercial side, what we do is we take the share of the program that's being attributed to commercial, and to try and figure out how to charge an individual business, what the city has used is required parking spaces. So this would basically say, if you have a business of a certain size and type, and you were doing your business now, we picked a year, 2014. According to that code, how many parking spaces would you be required to have? We totaled up the total number of parking spaces, divide the cost of the program by the number of parking spaces, and come up with a fee per space. Then we know for individual businesses how many spaces they would be required to have, multiply the number of spaces times the fee per space, and that's what shows up on their utility bill each month. So the things that we've gone forward and doing the review, there were 2 areas where we found some potential issues that we're hoping you can provide some direction to staff today. The first one has to do with that parking, required parking. Because the city has been making changes to our parking code and required parking and coming up with different areas, we found that this is becoming difficult to administer, and so would like to look at an alternative way of calculating the commercial industrial share of the pavement management program. Most of the entities around us are using trip generation. There is a standardized the ITE manual. There's a standardized way of determining the number of trips that a business or an industry will generate on Tigard streets for its customers and its employees, and so that way we can measure the wear and tear on Tigard streets and their share of the maintenance cost. So that is one of the things that we're hoping to get some direction from council on tonight. The other one, in doing the review, what we also discovered was that in 2016, so about 3.5 years ago, when council was considering the street maintenance fee, at that time there was a cap on the commercial businesses where if your required parking exceeded 250 spaces, you were only going to get charged for the 250. And council determined that they wanted to lift that cap. They also determined, and so At the time, the question was put before council, do we want to, when we're doing the math, or the commercial share of the pavement management program, divide by the number of required parking spaces, gives you your fee per space. So the question is put before council, when we lift the number of spaces, do you want to increase that denominator? Essentially, make more spaces in the city of Tigard so the cost per space goes down. And the answer was no. We wanted to use those additional spaces above 250 to raise revenue. And so what was found when staff was doing the review was that this direction from council from 3.5 years ago never got implemented. And so for roughly 29 businesses in Tigard, which have over 250 spaces, the cap was never lifted. And so roughly $140,000 of revenue for the pavement management program per year has not been collected. And what that means is that that's revenue that obviously as a finance director, I would say would be awfully nice for the city of Tigard to have moving forward. However, the staff direction or staff recommendation before you this evening, because we have these two competing pieces, do we want to look at moving to the trip generation as opposed to required parking and this other piece of the cap that was never lifted? We also don't want to potentially impact businesses multiple times. So what staff is recommending is that council directs staff to look into doing trip generation as opposed to required parking and come back to council with the impacts that would create within the business and industrial sector for the city of Tigard for council to consider. And in the meantime, and that will take about, to do a good job of that, that's going to take about a year to get that work done. And in the meantime, we're recommending that we don't lift the cap at this point, because if we do move to trip generation...
Can I clarify? The cap is lifted.
Sorry.
I mean, right? Like, we made that decision. The staff don't have the authority to override that.
Yeah, correct. Staff does not have the authority, and it was an oversight that it was never implemented. And that's staff's fault, and that fault, the utility billing division is part of my portfolio, and so ultimately that rests on my shoulders. Also, as finance director, as I said, it would be nice to have that revenue moving forward for the pavement management program. That said, taking the multiple impacts on the business community of Tigard, staff feels overall that if we do move to trip generation, that we would potentially be impacting businesses twice. So would like to recommend that we give staff time to look at trip generation, give council time to have a discussion about that, and then based upon that discussion, impact businesses once, whether that's moving to trip generation or that's keeping the parking, and then implementing the cap removal.
So those are the staff recommendations?
That's the staff recommendation.
Okay.
It's a two-part.
And do you have more that you're speaking to now, or do you want us to
I'm
deliberate?
happy to take any questions.
Okay. So let's start with questions, and then we'll go to deliberation. So, Council President Goodhouse?
This is for the city attorney. So, as the mayor mentioned, we already passed lifting the cap. We didn't change how we build, but it's in law right now that the caps have been lifted. How do we address that issue that in 2016 the council changed it, the caps have been lifted, and we never build that? Either what do we do about back amounts, what do we do about going forward, how do we amend that, any of the changes to that law, since it now is in law, but we didn't charge for it?
I would suggest council take no action on that and just accept that that is foregone revenue. The businesses, it didn't create a debt on those businesses or an obligation on those businesses. the fact that they didn't receive a bill from the city, we can't back collect them for that. So I would suggest council take no action.
Why? Businesses do that to us all the time. Why can we not do that? Like, there's a legal reason we can't, or what does it mean that we can't do that?
I think there's definitely a policy reason. I think in terms of so I'd have to look more. There are statute of limitations. Generally, like on taxes, you can't collect more than 3 years back. So I'd want to look at what kind of statute of limitations might exist on this. So there would be other considerations.
But also, how can we not do anything? Because it is a law though right now, so we would have at least stressed that that we passed into law that the cap has been lifted, whether or not we charged. It is right now still the cap has been lifted.
So depending on what direction council wanted to take, if council wanted to reinstate the cap, I do think that the ordinance would need to be adjusted to reflect that.
What do you mean by reinstate that? Like, I don't understand this whole conversation. This body acted. There is not a cap. The fact that you're not implementing it or didn't or failed to implement it doesn't change that. Like, I really don't understand the conversation, to be honest. It's kind of frustrating, actually.
Well, what's frustrating is we spent, as a council back then, we spent a lot of time outreaching to businesses. We'd had a long time talking about it. We decided to give the residents a discount and charge businesses more because there was more business traffic on the roads. We went through the whole process, worked with the businesses. They all knew about it, and we passed it, and it's in law. So that's why it's even, as the mayor says, why are we discussing it? It's something that is in law, so we just have to figure out what to do from here.
Councilor Newton?
Just for clarification, how often is the street maintenance fee paid? It's paid monthly, right? Okay.
It's paid monthly.
Right. And your estimate on when Trip Generation, when we would be able to affect that is about a year?
It's about a year.
If it was a couple of months or 3 or 4 months, I would be hearing maybe what you're saying about holding on implementing the cap. But a year, it doesn't seem to me like too long of a time. I mean, if we went ahead with the cap and charged businesses what they should be paying now, and we're not going to go to Trip Generation for a year, that seems like a long enough time that we're not changing things too quickly, especially since it's already on the books. So I don't have as big of a concern if it's going to really take a year to get to Trip Generation as I would if it was a matter of 2 or 3 months. So, we've got the issue of people being made aware of that, but if it's a year, I don't really think I have the same concern that I would if it was a matter of months. The only
Councilor Luke?
I guess, are we still doing questions, or are we deliberating?
No, I think we're trying to be at questions. I think it's, yeah.
Okay.
You're going to wait? Okay. City Manager Wine?
Mr. Mayor, I guess I want to respond to your comment earlier. I want to clarify that you're not hearing staff say that we can't implement the cap, and I don't think there's any question that the council's acted. But the reason that the recommendation coming for you tonight in the form it is that I think what staff's looking for is a confirmation about this direction. So you're having a policy discussion. We don't mean for you to have the same policy discussion that you had in 2016, but we're just trying to confirm what the right order of practically the steps we're going to take will be next.
Yeah, I mean, so to clarify that further, and maybe this will focus our questions and our discussion, it seems like there's one broad question about what we should do for the long-term future. Like, what methodology should we be directing staff to work towards in the future? What, if anything, do we do between now and then, which most likely has to continue to be related to our current methodology? And then how do we solve part of that is how do we solve, or what do we do about the charging of the cap or lifting of the cap or not? And I think there's a fourth question, which is do we go back and bill what should have been charged correctly? I think those are all questions on the table, and we should be focusing our questions so that we're prepared to talk to all 4 of those points. But
question for clarification. What is, since this is a discussion, what is staff looking for? Are we just looking for direction to come back with us later? So we're looking at, so if we do ask for further questions and also direction, we can address all these issues at another time.
Correct.
Okay.
So basically, as City Manager Wine said, looking for direction on, do you want us to look at an alternative method for charging commercial businesses? And when do you want us to implement council's direction on removal of the cap?
And you don't want that answer to be 2016, I take it? That would be technically
Well,
correct, but not useful.
Or
Okay.
put another way, you're not hearing staff recommend that we go back and charge to the
Correct.
2016 level. And the rationale for that recommendation is about the impact on businesses. But it's certainly the council's choice.
Okay, so back to questions. Councilor Newton, did you have another question? Okay. Council President Goodhouse, any final questions? Councilor Anderson? Councilor Lube? Okay, deliberation. Who would like to start? Councilor Anderson?
Yeah, I think we should go just in your 1 through 4s. Because I do think that trip generation is the future, and so I would direct staff to continue with those. And we would have to educate the public, but again, most municipalities around here are using that anyway, so I don't think that's going to be
Not an earth-shattering concept.
no. So
Okay,
that's number 1.
we'll go one by one.
Yeah.
Councilor Lube, what is your thought on the future?
I would say that I think going to trip generation for the long term is going to be the best way to go forward. And so I think we should direct staff to start to look at the impacts and be able to come back to us with information on what that would look like.
Councilor Newton?
I agree.
Council President Goodhouse?
I agree and with the trip generation. I think that we need to, whether it's a year or 2 years or how long the time frame is, I think we need to do enough public outreach, enough in-depth analysis of it, and make sure we do it right and not rush it.
Okay, I agree with all that sentiment, so I think we have clear direction there. Okay, second issue. Councilor Anderson, you want to start with that one too?
I forget what it is, actually.
Well, I think, so the next step to take would be, what do we do in the interim? That was sort of and therefore, what do we do about what do we do in the interim? What do we do about the cap in the interim? And what do we do about the cap going backwards, if anything?
Okay, I'll start with the last one first.
Okay.
I don't think we should retroactively charge the businesses. I think we can explain to them that they've got a nice ride for the last 5 years and that a new charge is coming.
So we could send them what their bill would have been, and that they should.
Well, yeah.
Councilor Lube?
Did you want to speak to the other points about the?
No, I just want to do that.
Okay. If we're talking about what to do for the back, I think it's unfortunate. I think, staff is probably frustrated with themselves. You're probably frustrated with yourself. I think the council's probably frustrated, and there's no super easy way to go about it. But I go back to, as a business and as an accountant, if I were to go back and it was something for a month or two, that would be a very different discussion than having multiple years and a surprise for a business. And so I think the answer is that we don't go back and charge them. I think it's unfair to the business. It's not their fault we didn't send them a bill. That falls on us as a city. And, that's our responsibility, and we didn't live up to that. And so I think it's not a great idea to go back and charge them. So that's on that topic.
Okay, Councilor Newton?
I agree it's unfortunate, but I'm not sure that I think it's a good idea to go back and charge businesses. I was back charged by PGE because they didn't have their equal pay software set up, so I'm got a $500 utility bill and didn't feel very good, so, because they didn't have software together. So anyway, I don't think that that's a very good idea. It's unfortunate, but I would prefer not to go back.
Council President Goodhouse?
Just for a point of discussion, because it's coming back, I'd like to at least just see what the legalities of it is as far as going back, because there's 2 points raised. If it would have been a discount to homeowners than if it would have been a bill to businesses. So I'd like to see, at least see that if we're going to be looking at discussion. And I think you asked two parts. I would like to, though, implement what the council passed back in 2016 with a start date of January 1st, 2020.
Why not now?
That's fine too. I can do either one. I can do now, or we'd have to come back and look at it. So whenever we have next time on our agenda to look at it again, it might be November, might be December.
I don't think we do have to come back on that one. It's already, I mean, this is just giving the staff that's
think-
already in the law
Then I would be fine, yeah, I'd be fine implementing it
for
now.
November.
November, I mean, do a notice and start implementing it.
Counselor Anderson, can you support November start?
I can. Toby, a question. How many businesses do we think this is going to affect?
29.
29.
29 currently?
29
Okay.
Counselor Liu, start in November?
I have some follow-up questions for that with the
Okay.
29 businesses. Are they the same businesses that would have, in theory, been impacted and were contacted back when the original cap was lifted? And then, I think my concerns would be, how much would that be? And what kind of a surprise it would be to business owners? I could get behind November, but I could also easily get behind January to give them adequate notice. Because I don't know what the dollar figure would be, and that could be a big impact to them just as an initial shock.
Counselor Newton?
I'm going to kind of split the difference. What I would like to see is a notice go out to those 29 businesses in their next utility bill, explaining the situation, saying what happened, and saying on your next utility bill, you're going to see this increase. So I would like to see a one time for them to get kind of a heads up, explain what happened, and then I'll let them know that in their next bill, they're going to be seeing the increase.
There's
So-
only 29 of them. Could that letter
Right.
go out in the next week or two?
I mean, I just would like to give them a heads up before they get a bill.
We already have a letter drafted in
Uh-huh.
anticipation of the possibility that we might be
Right.
implementing sooner rather than later. We can send out a letter, and it's just basically the question is how much lead time do you want to give to the 29 affected
Right.
businesses?
Mr. Mayor, the reason I suggest in their
And what
bill,
were you going to suggest as far as a start date with that?
well, December then, I guess. The reason I suggest it be in their bill is because they're looking at their bill, which is where they pay that fee. And if they get a letter and they're a business, that might not connect to the person that sees
And I was
the
just
utility.
thinking, I was going to my operations brain here and saying, trying to do 29 utility stuffers in certain bills is probably harder than sending a letter, but I don't have to worry about that here.
In the bill itself.
You what?
I don't think we can do it in the
No.
bill itself.
Well, it'd take a lot of effort.
Right.
Would not be, it'd be hard for 29, I would think.
Because when is the, just I guess for, I don't know if you know this number, when is the billing cycles for the businesses? Are they beginning or middle, or are they very?
We have 4 cycles per month, and so I couldn't tell you which businesses are in which week.
So technically, we could send it out this week, and they'd have a couple weeks' notice for November.
Potentially.
What about saying whatever their next bill is, it would go out now? Or I guess, are we saying that the 29 needs to go by letters, which is separate than having it go
Yeah.
in their utility bill?
Yeah, it'd be a letter directly to them.
Okay.
Okay, so I hear
November.
I hear support for a letter in either November or December.
Just as long as they get advance notice, I'm fine.
Send the letter this
With the
week,
kick.
start in November.
Yeah.
Can you guys pull that off for 29?
We could definitely send a letter probably by the beginning of next week.
Okay.
And then, and then with the bill that they receive for the November
Starting with
billing.
November billings. Can the rest of the council live with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, what have we not addressed in the list of 4? I guess that addresses what to do in the interim. In the interim, we're staying with parking spaces as a methodology until trip generation changes.
Yes.
You know what you're doing. We're not back billing. We're sending a notice, and we're starting and billing in November for the above 250 spaces. Did we
Correct.
cover all your policy items?
Yes.
In your letter, have you mentioned that we're going to potentially have another type of,
Change?
yeah, another change coming up?
The draft letter does not address going to trip generation.
No, don't, I wouldn't mention that at all.
No.
Maybe in the letter to soften the blow, let them know that they haven't been paying it since 2016?
Yeah. I think that's in the
Okay.
letter. Isn't that in the letter already?
You know,
I know at least one draft of it had that, so we can make sure that that's in there.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that'd be a fair
16
thing.
or 14?
I don't know.
No, I
2016.
think, no, I think that'd be great, because if we do, if business owners do come to us, we can say that, you know, yes, it was a charge, but we also decided not to do 3.5 years' worth.
Okay. I think we have concluded our business items. We don't have any non-agenda items. Is there a motion for adjournment?
So
So-
moved.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned.
She opposed.
I oppose adjourning.